Greetings, friends. Welcome to today's devotional. It is Psalm 48. Great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. In the city of our God, his holy mountain, beautiful in elevation, is the joy of all the earth. Mount Zion in the far north, the city of the great King. Within its citadels, God has shown himself a sure defense. Then the kings assembled, they came on together, and as soon as they saw it, they were astounded. They were in panic, they took to flight. Trembling took hold of them there, pains as of a woman in labor, as when the east wind shatters the ships of Tarshish. As we have heard, have we seen in the city of the Lord of hosts, in the city of our God, which God established forever. We ponder your steadfast love, O God, in the midst of your temple, your name, O God, like your praise reaches to the ends of the earth. Your right hand is filled with victory. Let Mount Zion be glad. Let the towns of Judah rejoice because of your judgments. Walk about Zion. Go all around it. Count its towers. Consider well its ramparts. Go through its citadels, that you may tell the next generation that this is God, our God forever and ever. He will be our guide forever. So this is a song of Zion, song in praise of God, primarily focused, as you probably heard, on the temple and on Jerusalem. It was a sight to behold. The temple that Herod built after this had taken place, rebuilt the temple, was one of the seven wonders of the world, magnificent in its height and in its luxury and in everything. Was super impressive, something that was a witness and a testimony to the power and authority and sovereignty of God. And as I've mentioned on a number of occasions, it was a central place of, obviously, of worship for the Israelites, for the Jews, and it was the place where God was known to be present in the Holy of Holies. In the center of the temple, God's glory resided in that temple. So it was a very important figure, not just for the Jews, not just for the Israelites, but for people all around to see the awesomeness of God. Well, that temple has been destroyed and was destroyed several times, and what remains of it now is just a wall. The remnants of it is long since been gone. But if you think about some of the things that Jesus taught us, when he talked about the temple being destroyed and raised again in 3 days, on the week of his crucifixion, what Jesus was talking about was that worship was no longer going to be centralized in a temple, that Jesus was the temple. Jesus was going to be that central place of worship, the thing that all of us had access to, the person that all of us had access to, and that was God, being present with God, experiencing his righteousness and glory and all of that stuff too. But Paul also says that we are the temple of God, and remarkably and in an unbelievable way, because of the Holy Spirit, and this is the week of Pentecost, so this is kind of topical for that, is that the temple, well, that the Holy Spirit resides in all of us. And so the presence of God is with us all, and in many ways we are like that temple that was in Jerusalem thousands of years ago. We are the presence of God, and we are a reflection of his glory, and we are a reflection of the praise that is due to him. And so we carry around with us this presence of God for the world to see, that it's not just located in one place in Israel, but that God is present throughout the world in us and in our hearts through the power of the Holy Spirit. So we are the temple of God's praise, and we, like the people, or like the temple and like Jerusalem, which was up on a hill, it was elevated, everybody could see it from afar. It was not in a valley, it was up on a hill. And again, one of the parables that Jesus tells about, people don't put a lamp under a bushel and they put it on a lampstand, and we are a city on a hill as the church collectively. We are held up for all the world to see, not to be judged and not to be judging others, but to be witnesses to who God is, and that we have the privilege to be a reflection of his glory in our own lives is absolutely stunning. That the very presence of the power of God resides in us is something that's impossible for us to fully comprehend, but we know because of the words of Christ that it is absolutely true. the Spirit resides in us, and thus God resides in us. And even in our brokenness and even in our imperfections, God's glory can still shine out of us to his praise. And that's something that we should ever always be mindful of, is the way that we live and act and interact in our world with people and in every situation, that we are carrying the presence of God with us and representing him in the world. And that should lead us to lead lives that are different than how the rest of the world lives. And that's how other people come to see and know who Christ is. That's how they come to experience his glory and to eventually, hopefully, praise his name as well, is through us. It's a privilege that we carry that we certainly don't deserve, and it's an example, another one of the examples of God's grace for us. And so think of yourself in that way. Think of yourself as the one who is carrying around God, who is the very presence of God in the world, and who is a reflection of his glory into the world. And as something that's not supposed to put a burden on us, but would uplift us and encourage us to be the best version of ourselves that God allows us to be able to do through the power of the Holy Spirit. That's our devotion for today. Next week, our next devotion will be Psalm 49. Until then, be well and be blessed.